I cheated while pregnant. With a woman. My female coworker manipulated me, and I betrayed my husband. I confessed everything. He stayed, but every day feels like silent punishment. He barely speaks and sex feels forced and empty. I might have just broken him forever. My husband is 36 and I'm 35. We have been married for 9 years. 3 years ago, right before the pandemic, I had an affair with one of my female coworkers. At the time, my husband was working in consulting and was constantly traveling. I was only seeing him about a few days every month and would go multiple months without seeing him sometimes. Couple that with the fact that I was pregnant at the time, I was already in a terrible state. My coworker convinced me that my husband was cheating on me. She told me that there was no way a man was able to spend that much time away from his wife without looking for the company of other women. I know how pathetic it is that I let her manipulate me like that, but at the end of the day, the fault lies with me. It was my job to protect my marriage, and I was the one who failed. Our daughter was born in early 2020, so I took maternity leave, which means I wasn't seeing my coworker very often anymore. We would still text, but we were drifting apart. Then the lockdowns hit, and suddenly, my husband wasn't traveling very much anymore. Seeing him around the house, caring for our newborn, and just being the wonderful husband he's always been, made me feel incredibly regret. I broke down and admitted everything to him. I still remember the way his face just melted. He was smiling at the beginning of the conversation, but by the end, he was just expressionless. He wasn't angry, he didn't cry, he just sat there. He asked me if our daughter was his, and I promised him that it was, since I'd never been with any man besides him. He told me that he wanted a paternity test anyway just to be sure, and I agreed. He then just stood up and went to sleep with our daughter. I knew I had to give him some space, but the whole thing was eating at me. I came to him and told him that I had blocked my affair partner on everything and told her that we could no longer speak. I also told him how I had quit my job. That last part was something we had discussed before the pandemic anyway, so I could take care of our daughter, but with both of us working from home, we didn't think it was necessary. He told me I didn't need to do that, but I told him that I couldn't be around her anymore. I asked him what I had to do to make our marriage work, and he said that the marriage was working just fine. He wasn't planning on divorcing me, he wasn't planning on leaving me, and that we were fine. He said that he liked having me around, that I was the only person he'd ever been in love with, that we worked well together, and that he couldn't really raise our daughter on his own anyway. I have to say, I felt pretty over the moon about that, but I also knew that I couldn't let him think I was taking advantage of his forgiveness. I threw myself into being the best wife and mother I could be. I really think I started doting on him, and honestly, I realized that I wasn't treating him nearly as well as he deserved to have been treated. I cooked for him, I tried to look good for him, and I tried to be more affectionate. But that's when I noticed how different he was. He would only sleep with our daughter, never with me. He used to say he couldn't fall asleep without me, to the point where when he was away on his business trips, he would call me at night, so I could talk to him as he fell asleep. He used to always kiss and hug me, but he stopped touching me completely. Whenever he was home, he would try to take me out on dates, but he completely stopped doing that too. He barely even spoke to me. I gave him time to deal with everything, but I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted him about a year ago, and he agreed to change his behavior. He started sleeping in bed with me again. He wouldn't hug or kiss me, but he wouldn't pull away when I tried to either. He took me out on a date for our anniversary, and he's already made plans for Valentine's Day this year. We even started having sex again. But somehow, it's so much worse now. When we have sex, he just lays there and doesn't move or kiss or touch me like he used to. It's like he's forcing himself to be there. There's been more than one occasion where he doesn't finish. He has never initiated. I feel like I'm forcing him to have sex with me, and it makes me feel disgusting. And then Saturday night happened. I had gotten sort of dressed up for a night out with my friends. I hadn't gone out with my girlfriends in a long time, so I was pretty excited. I had also purposely done my hair the way he likes and wore his favorite dress to see if I couldn't make something happen with him later that night. My husband sees me about to head out, dressed up the way he likes, and he really said, "You have a date tonight or something?" Like, seriously? After everything, he really thinks I'd go behind his back like that? I sort of blew up at him because I was so frustrated, and he just said, "Well, it didn't stop you before, so I don't know why it would stop you now when you know you can get away with it." That really broke me. I didn't end up going out that night because I just couldn't feel up to it anymore. I don't know how much longer I can take this. How do I fix this? I just want my husband back. Edit. Just figured I'd put this here since I failed to mention it in the post, but we did try marriage counseling. He didn't want to do it from the start, and we quit only after a few sessions because of that, and because he would barely speak during the sessions anyway. I have been in therapy myself for quite some time now. I'm going to suggest therapy to him. I'm also going to try to have an honest discussion about all of this with him. The last time we did was what got him to start sleeping with me again, but ever since then, he's always refused to speak to me about it. I'm going to sit him down and make sure we get this settled. I know I wasn't a good wife, but I do love my husband. He's my first and only love. He's a wonderful father to our daughter, and before this, he was a near-perfect partner. We've been together for over 15 years. I don't want a divorce, and I will do anything in my power to repair this in him. I know it might be wasted effort, and things might never get better, but I won't give up. Best comments. It's obvious he doesn't love you anymore and is only with you because of your kid. There's that analogy about the broken vase. You can glue it back together, but the cracks will always be visible. He needs counseling on his own. Like, seriously? After everything, he really thinks I'd go behind his back like that? That's what betraying someone's trust does to them. The fact that you still aren't understanding of that is a problem you need to work on in therapy on your own, to learn to accept. This whole post reads like you are not really at fault for your initial actions, and then that you've put in enough work and effort, so now everything should just be magically better on your timeline. That's not rebuilding trust. I truly hope marriage counseling works, but you may also both need to face that the marriage is broken, and that it's better for your daughter to grow up around two adults who are healthy than two that are together and miserable. You cheated on your husband with a woman. This means you lost the right to tell him that he has nothing to worry about just because it's a girls' night out. And deciding to go out without telling him first is crazy. Even in a normal relationship, it's normal to ask your partner if they're okay to go out. But in a destroyed relationship, to not tell him first and then act like everything has been forgiven is completely insane. First, you have to take accountability for cheating and stop making other people responsible for it. Pregnancy, coworker convincing you, your husband was cheating, husband traveling for work. Come on. Second, your husband is not over this, and his way of coping is not to not deal with his emotions and basically be emotionless. My guess is that he is staying because of his daughter and not wanting to miss out on anything. I don't understand why you would dress up all sexy and how he likes it, only for you to go out with your girlfriends. It's not like you were doing it for him, so his reactions weren't like weird given how he has been acting for years at this point. I don't know if you can get your husband back at this point. You should have both done couples therapy and individual therapy years ago. Start by going to therapy yourself and asking him if he'd be willing to do individual therapy, and after a while you can do couples therapy. I don't think you should go straight for couples therapy. I try to find excuses to dress up for him. He always questions me about it, and if I say I do it for him, he just kind of laughs and tells me that I'm being over the top or whatever. I saw my night out as my opportunity to dress up with an excuse, drink a little bit, and come home feeling sexy. I just want him to want me again. I mentioned that for the full story, but I have, from the very beginning, taken full responsibility for the affair. I am trying to earn it back. I've given him full access to my phone and accounts. He works from home, and I no longer work, so he knows I'm not going out or doing anything behind his back. How do I get him to confront his emotions? He doesn't talk about it at all, and he's not willing to do marriage counseling. I might ask him if he'd be willing to do individual therapy instead. I'm already in therapy myself. Update number 1, 4 days after the first post. I wanted to thank everyone who's commented and sent me messages, both ones that were kind and the ones that were more harsh. Some of them were still extremely vulgar, but most were fairly reasonable. I've been directed to a lot of resources that will definitely be very helpful for me. Thank you so much for that. A lot of people have made the same arguments that he's only still here for 2 reasons, which is money and custody. I don't think that's the case, and I'll tell you why. For one thing, we have a prenup in place. My family is very wealthy, and my dad demanded we get a prenup before we get married. So, I really don't think money is what's keeping him in this marriage. I also don't think he's staying for our daughter. Although he definitely loves her to an extreme degree, and she's definitely the most important thing in the world to him, I firmly believe this. My husband never really had interest in having kids. When we discussed kids, he told me he was ambivalent to the idea. He'd have kids if I wanted them, pretty much. I've always wanted at least 2, but preferably 3, so that's how our daughter was born. Anyway, I talked to him, and he agreed to go to individual therapy for himself. He was pretty hesitant about it, but after I told him that this wasn't something he needed to do for me, for us, or even for himself, but rather something he had to do for our daughter, he agreed. I think this should really help him figure things out. I'm a bit concerned that therapy might push him to want to get divorced, but honestly, if that's what happens, then I'll accept it. I just want to make him happy. At this point, even if my marriage doesn't survive, I'll be okay as long as we do what's best for him and our daughter. They are my #1 concern now. Best comments. It's obvious that he's with you because of his daughter, and he's just going through the motions. He may not have wanted kids before, but once you have them, they become the most important things in the world. He doesn't love you as a romantic partner anymore, and you're essentially co-parenting. It's time you realize you broke him beyond repair and try separating. The thing is, he is very clear about the fact that he doesn't want to get a divorce. I've tried talking to him about it, but honestly, if he doesn't want a divorce, I don't want to be the one to bring it up. Him saying he doesn't want to get divorces makes me hope he hasn't given up completely, which makes me feel like there's a chance we can make it work. This story reminds of that quote from Elie Wiesel. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. Her husband is completely indifferent to her. He doesn't hate her, he feels nothing for her anymore. I don't know why, but this hit me so hard. For men especially who get screwed with custody, staying for children is a huge motivator. And as soon as the kid turns 18, it's time for a divorce. A friend of mine did this. His wife cheated on him, and he stayed in the marriage for 9 years. He divorced her when their daughter turned 19. She had to go to the hospital because she was so shaken up. She wasn't expecting that. Update number 2, 15 days after the last update. My husband was away for work for the past week. I was pretty sad that we would miss Valentine's Day with one another, but I've also been trying to be better about giving him more space as he needs it. It was especially hard because he was in Arizona for the Super Bowl over the weekend, apparently invited by one of his clients, so it's been a week since I've seen him. Ever since the pandemic, he's almost never gone for more than a week at a time, so having him not home for so long really made me ache. Because of that, I've sort of been spiraling all week. I've been feeling extremely helpless and hopeless, and my posts here haven't really done much. He has said that he's already looked into starting therapy, so at least he's doing that. But still, I was just missing him so much. He doesn't call me at night anymore. He barely even calls me at all when he's away for work, except to say goodnight to our daughter. I've been reading and rereading a lot of the comments I've gotten on my previous posts, and they've really started weighing me down. He came home today, and I couldn't help myself. I convinced him to eat the dinner I made for him, and then I just asked him, do you still love me? I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was just some sort of masochistic instinct that I had within me. It's not like I would have believed him if he said yes anyway. He just stared at me for a long time, before sighing and shaking his head, and replied no. Well, he really said, I don't think so. Probably not. But that's even worse than a no because that means he hasn't even really put any thought into it. That was exactly what I didn't want to hear, but it was sort of the answer I was expecting. I was already crying by that point, so I asked him if he ever loved me. He frowned and waited even longer before answering. Honestly, this part is sort of a blur, and I was already feeling like I was going to faint, so I honestly barely heard what he said. But I'm pretty sure he said something along the lines of him not knowing if he ever loved me because he couldn't imagine just falling out of love with me the way that he did if he ever was truly in love with me to begin with. I just sat on the couch crying, and I couldn't say anything else. He left and went to bed, and said he was tired from traveling. Now I'm sitting here and typing this out, feeling worse than I've ever felt before, but also sort of determined. We're supposed to do our Valentine's Day date on Saturday, since we missed the actual date. We have someone to take care of our daughter, and we were going to spend the whole day together. I had a special surprise plan for him as well. I wanted to make him feel truly special. I wanted to make him remember how much I really did love him. I was going to make our day unforgettable. Now, I'm going to make it unforgettable for a different reason. I won't keep him in this relationship, trapped with someone he doesn't love. He doesn't love me anymore, and even if I still love him more than anything, sometimes that's just not enough. If I really loved him, then I wouldn't trap him. I'd be willing to make the sacrifice so that he could be happy with someone who truly deserves him in the future. But that does mean this is probably going to be the last date I ever get to have with him. I'm going to cherish every moment I get to share with him. I'm going to make sure I never forget that day. It's so funny how much you can appreciate something when you put an expiration date on it. I know I said I didn't want a divorce, but I guess I'm getting one anyway. Best comments. I don't blame him. I don't blame him for any of this. At the end of the day, everything wrong, everything broken in our relationship is a result of my own actions. I've read the comments. I know I've made the wrong decision every single step of the way. I know I made the wrong choice at every single opportunity. I could handle his feelings yo-yoing. I could handle a roller coaster. That's not what this is, though. He's indifferent. He doesn't care. And, honestly, I'm not surprised. He is indifferent because his spouse cheated on him, and he don't care anymore. I think the worst part for you is that he doesn't show any emotion toward you. I think you would be happier if he screamed in your face and called you every name in the book, because at least he would be showing some emotions. Update number 3. 28 days after the last update. Last time I posted, I was in a really bad place. A lot of you, rightfully so, told me that I shouldn't be unilaterally making the decision to end my marriage, and I absolutely agree. It was difficult to reach that place, but there were a few things that helped. For one, our Valentine's Day date was incredible. I wasn't lying when I planned the day to be all about him. We did his favorite things, ate his favorite food, and I actually got to see him laughing and smiling and having a good time for once. I see him that way with other people, and especially with our daughter, but if he's just with me, he's completely stoic. Seeing him be so genuinely happy for the first time in so long reminded me how much I loved him and how much I couldn't bear being away from him. Therapy has also really helped me come to terms with things. I switched to a different therapist, and she's been a bit harsher on me, but I think I needed that. She's made a point to really make me confront things about myself that I was unable to before, but she also did a really good job in helping me understand that the desperation I'm feeling is perfectly reasonable. She's been really great so far, and I think I'm already making some pretty great strides, although there's still a lot of room for improvement. One thing she helped me realize was how I felt about the affair. Sure, I knew I'd done something wrong, but I wasn't able to understand how wrong it really was. Part of me truly believed that it wasn't that bad, since it was with another woman instead of a man. I think that's probably because my husband and I had discussed having a threesome with another woman before, but I ended up not wanting to go through with it because the thought of seeing him with another woman made me nauseous. I recognize now that it was a betrayal and a deception either way. The threesome would have been okay because he would have had the ability to consent and he could stop at any time, but I took that away from him by doing it behind his back. I also recognized that in the case of a threesome, it would have been just sex, but with my affair partner, there was an emotional component as well. While I was never in love with her, I was friends with her and I did genuinely care about her. On top of that, I recognized how it might have been even worse that it was with a woman. I can honestly say that I've never been attracted to a man besides my husband, to the point where I've even told him before that I'd consider myself a lesbian if it wasn't for him. At the time, this seemed like something harmless, but I now realize that my husband likely had thoughts about whether or not I'd be happier with a woman, and my affair just affirmed that for him. He's always struggled with his self-esteem, always thinking that he wasn't good enough for me, or that I was out of his league. He was bullied a lot as a kid for being chubby and as an Asian immigrant growing up in a mostly white town, and I know it left some lasting scars. After the date, unfortunately, things were back to the tense situation that they always were, but a few things did happen that rejuvenated my hope that we could make things work. For one, I do believe he's still sexually attracted to me, even though I have stopped pressuring him to have sex with me since many of you appropriately told me that I was practically assaulting him. It makes me feel absolutely disgusted with myself that I could ever do something so awful to the person I love, even more awful than the cheating, in my opinion. However, I've noticed some things that made me pretty sure he is still attracted to me, and I caught him doing something that made me almost certain of it. I don't know whether he still loves me or not, but at least he's still attracted to me, and at least I can make things work with that. He has been going to therapy as well, and I hope he'll be able to deal with his self-esteem and self-worth issues through it. I recognize that this might push him towards wanting to get a divorce anyway, but honestly, that's okay. I'm going to leave that up to him. If therapy helps him realize that he can't stay anymore, then I'll be happy to do whatever he needs me to do. I really just want what's best for him, whether that's with me or not, but I realize that I have no right to make that decision for him. Until then, I'm working hard to reaffirm my desire to be with him and to show him how much I love him. Best comments. OP provide more details about the differences between therapists and other details. Something to keep in mind. Before the cheating, he probably felt special and extraordinary. After all, you were primarily attracted to women, and he was so special that you chose him exclusively. He is probably reflecting on himself way differently now. I know you know him best and probably already took this into consideration. Your choices as of late are so encouraging. I sometimes dislike the saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," but it kind has its place here. There is such a drastic difference in the vibe of OP in this post as opposed to your previous one. You sound very aware and mature. You sound as though taking accountability is a top priority for you. I'm curious, what factors lead you to this major change in mindset? Thank you very much for the kind words. As for what factors led to this huge change, it's kind of hard to say. For one, I think getting out of the wallowing depression I was in helped a lot. I was at a point where I felt just completely miserable, and when you feel that way, it's hard not to feel some type of self-pity. Getting out of that mindset definitely helped me quite a bit. The other big thing, at least for me, was confrontation. Not from my husband, but from myself. Confronting myself with what I'd done, getting myself to admit how bad my actions really were. That had been really difficult before, and it still is honestly, but I'm doing it. My old therapist was a bit more willing to let me think about things my way. My new therapist is much more concerned with getting me to look behind the front I put up and really think about how I feel. She's also forced me to think about how my husband feels. When I saw that I think my husband feels a certain way, she doesn't just accept it. She asks me why I think he feels that way, what underlying things that feeling might be coming from, and what it might represent. And then she reminds me that although I may believe he feels that way, I can't act on that assumption. She's helped me a lot. I don't think we're ready for marriage counseling yet. I would like to do it, but when we tried before, he really didn't like it. He basically refused to speak during the few sessions we went to, and he complained after. I don't blame him. Admittedly, our previous marriage counselor was a bit biased. She was really trying a bit too hard to make it seem like both of us were at fault for the breakdown of our marriage. At the time, I did feel a bit of validation from hearing that, but looking back now, it just makes me angry. Now, I want to take my time to find a counselor that will work for us, but I want to give my husband to make some progress in individual therapy first before we move into doing it as a couple. Unfortunately, I don't really have the capability to pay for it myself. I still don't have a job yet, so my husband is the sole provider in our home. I do have a trust fund set up by my parents, but I haven't touched it since I bought the house. I have considered returning to work, but I haven't made that move yet. Besides, even if I did, I wouldn't be able to until fall anyway. Glad OP switched therapists and made some real progress. OP seems to be getting it now. And that is a good thing. I don't blame my old therapist. I do wish I'd recognized that a lot earlier. I regret not making the move sooner, because I wonder how things might have gone had I done so. I'm worried it's all too late now, but I guess time will tell.